Hey YouTube, it's your boy Sean, aka Sean Knight 3000. What's going on with y'all out there in YouTube land? Anyway, still here at work. Haven't ended my date yet. Anyway, just thinking about my childhood again. That would be the Midway train on its way to Midway Airport to drop off some lucky passengers that are escaping the city or some lucky people that are coming in. Anyway, I've been thinking about my childhood. I was remembering Channel 44 here in Chicago. And for the people that grew up here in the city, they remember Channel 44 pretty well too. I remember getting out of school at 3:15, hauling ass to get home because Speed Racer would be on at 3 o'clock. And I'm talking classic Speed Racer. I'm not talking about that remake shit that it looks like it was done on somebody's home computer. No, I'm talking classic Speed Racer. You know, here comes Speed Racer. He's a demon on wheels. He's a demon and he's gonna be chasing after someone. He's gaining on you, so you better look alive. He's busy revving up the powerful Mark V. And when the odds are against him and there's dangerous work to do, you can bet your life Speed Racer will see it through. Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go. There's another chorus. I'm not gonna torture you with that one, but there is. Speed Racer would come on at 3. And by the time we got out of school, half of the show would be over. But you would have about 2 minutes between the last scene of the first half of the episode and the next scene coming up. So you had 2 minutes to run literally 2.5 blocks from our school to our house. And you could tell who loved Speed Racer and who didn't, because all the guys would take off hauling ass. As soon as we got outside of school, we would go. Just haul ass all the way home. It would be a long line of guys running home to catch the tail end of Speed Racer. And you get there, you didn't wait on the elevator, because in my old projects, and we lived in the Robert Taylor homes here in Chicago, some of the best times of my life, despite the fact that they were the projects, you know, home is where you are. Like they say, home is where the heart is. No, home is where you are. It's got nothing to do with where the heart is. And your home can be as great or as fucked up as you want it to be. It just depends on you and depends on the people that are around you, you know? Growing up in the projects, it had its bad moments. You know, like the time that our family was robbed at gunpoint. You know, I remember that shit probably, hopefully, for the rest of my life, you know? I never want to forget that feeling. You know? Losing my friend. Losing Ralph. We used to be close, you know? We were close as fuck, played baseball together, hung out together. His dad liked my mom, you know? Shit, if things had gone a little differently, we probably could have been brothers, you know? If his dad had married my mom, we would have been. But then he got into that bullshit, you know? I stayed, you know, on the straight and narrow because my mom would break her foot off literally in my ass cheek if I didn't. For me, baseball kept me out of trouble. A few other things, you know? Ralph, on the other hand, decided, you know, he was going to follow the crowd. He ended up joining the Disciples. For those of you that are not up on the Disciples, that used to be the street gang here in Chicago that ran shit. He decided he was going to join them, got caught up in that shit. And believe it or not, another disciple took him out. Not over some gang-related shit. Not over drugs. Blew his head off over some pussy. Turns out they were both fucking the same broad, you know? And his fellow gang member, brothers in arms, disciples, throwing up the pitchforks and shit. Because that was how they greeted each other, how they saluted, by throwing up the pitchforks. One of his fellow gang members, his fellow brothers, put a bullet in his head. I'll never forget how I felt when I heard that shit, you know? I wouldn't wish those kind of feelings on my worst enemy. But despite the fact that there were some bad times, there was a lot of good times in that, in that apartment as well. A lot of parties. My mom getting drunk every Friday night, every Saturday night again. House full of people. Impromptu parties. Nothing was ever planned. They would go to the liquor store, buy some liquor. Next thing you know, you got a house full of niggas. Music blasting. Everybody's laughing, joking, having fun, dancing, drinking. About 4 o'clock in the morning, music would get turned off, or the needle would just get knocked off the record, because, it was the era of the record player. We're all kids, so we're all asleep. Next thing you know, you hear, "Motherfuck you! This is my goddamn house." That was my mom. 5 foot nothing. In the middle of a fight. Every fucking weekend. She didn't care. She'd fight with women. She'd fight with men. Shit, I once remember a time she fought 2 people at the same time. A man and his woman. Like I say, 5 foot nothing. Baddest broad you ever met in your life. She didn't take shit from nobody. Every weekend there was a fight at our house. Sometimes police would be called, but the vast majority of times nobody bothered the fucking police, Why even involve them? My Uncle Sidney. "Steve, calm down. You don't need to be getting your blood pressure up." Hey, Uncle Sidney, if you're watching this, we miss you, man. You got to move your ass back to Chicago. Hey, I understand Minnesota's where you want to be, but we missing you back in the Chi, right? We missing you back in the city beautiful, baby. So move your ass on back to Chicago as quickly as possible. But like I say, good times and some bad times. And one of the good things I remember about being there, being a kid, is Channel 44. Like I said, Speed Racer would be on at 3 o'clock. Then you had Johnny Sacco and his giant robot come on at 3:30. Fuck, that was the show. Johnny Sacco and his giant flying robot. That's what it was called. And his giant flying robot. Johnny worked for this, I think it was the Science Police or something like that. And they had the jetpacks and the big ass oversized motorcycle helmets with the plexiglass visors. And Johnny, of course, would command and talk to Giant Robot with this wristwatch. because Giant Robot was programmed to only respond to the very first voice he ever heard. That voice would be recorded for all time, and that's the only person he would ever respond to. And Johnny was the first person to speak to Giant Robot. He stole the watch from the bad guys. And so he got indoctrinated into I think they were the science police. I'm not exactly sure what the hell they were called anymore. All I remember was, like, I think Johnny was U7 and his partner was U5. That was the shits. That show was the shits. Then at 4:30 or 4 o'clock, you would get Space Giants. Oh shit. Taking you back now, right? How many people remember Space Giants? With, who was it, Miko? Miko had this little whistle around his neck. And depending on how many times he blew it, either Goldar would show up. Goldar was this giant 50-foot gold robot with blonde hair. I never got the blonde hair, but he looked fucking cool. He was naked, but he looked damn cool. He had a wife named Silver, and for some unknown reason, she was human size. You know, as a kid, I never really paid any attention to that. It was just cool. As a perverted adult, can you imagine the sex between a 50-foot robot and a human-sized robot who was human-looking? So I'm guessing Goldar was too big for skin, but Silver was human-sized, so she was covered in human skin. Can you imagine the sex between those two? Like I said, as a kid, I didn't think about shit like that, but as a grown-ass perverted adult, that would be some wild shit. And they had a son, but before you start getting all weird and shit, their son was created based on the image of Miko. That was Gam, the robot rocket boy. And all three of them could transform into rocket ships. Goldar, Silver, Gam. And Gam could transform into a rocket that Miko could ride in. The others were bigger rockets because they were bigger robots. In Japan, that show was called Ambassador Magma. So if you guys are looking at this from Japan, it was called Ambassador Magma over there. Although I don't understand why the hell it would be called Ambassador Magma. I mean, yeah, I understand their headquarters was inside a volcano, but Ambassador Magma? Really? Anyway, when they brought it over to the States, they changed it into a giant robot. No, they changed it into Space Giants. My bad. Still stuck on Johnny Sacco. They changed it into Space Giants. That would come on at 4 o'clock. Then at 4:30, depending on the school, if it was a school year, if it was like during the school season, you would get, what was it, Ultraman during the school year. And then you would get Spectraman during the summer. And the weird thing about both of those series was the opening. Creepy as fuck. Because they would have these monsters in silhouette. And with that weird ass high pitched singing. Especially for Ultraman. And how it would begin with that sound. You know, it's like, fuck. But as a kid, once again, you don't think about things like that. It's just, when you heard that theme music, boy, you were geeked up. You knew Ultraman was about to fuck somebody up. But Channel 44 here in Chicago. In the summertime, we would get White Sox games on Channel 44 because they were never broadcast on Channel 9. Channel 9 was the entire preview of the Cubs. So you would get White Sox games in the summertime on Channel 44. And then when the White Sox weren't playing, you would get, you get your cartoons in the afternoon. Then on Saturday and Sunday, you would get Hercules, not that Disney shit. The Hercules that was drawn by the Fleischer Studio, the same studio that did the old classic Superman cartoons. So Hercules had the spit curl and everything. And you would get King Kong. Wow, King Kong. King Kong, you know the name of King Kong. You know the fame of King Kong, 10 times as big as a man. Yeah, my head is full of dumb shit. Anyway, those were some good ass times. And I miss them, Back when my biggest worry was getting home in time to catch the tail end of Speed Racer. Life was so much simpler and better back then, I miss those days. Anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. Thanks for checking out the video and tripping down memory lane with this old ass man. If you did grow up in Chicago or the Chicagoland area and you got a chance to experience Channel 44 in its heyday, feel free to drop a line. Tell me what you remember about it the most. It'd be nice to compare notes with somebody from my generation. All right, I'm gonna end it here. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Later. Peace.